In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Pokemon TCG and more specifically how to play it. Now, if you've just opened your first pack, if you're a younger player looking to get into the game, or maybe you're a parent hoping to share this game with your child, they want to get into it, you want to show them how to play, this is a video for you. I will go through a few turns, talk about all the different things, like the different types of cards, what you can do, how things work when you do them, so you can implement that in your games. And hopefully it's some help. Let me know in the comments below if it is, because that's the reason I do these type of videos. I love helping people, teaching games. So let's get into this one and head to the table. You've got your deck ready and you're ready to play your first game. If you've not got your deck ready and you're wondering how to build one, you can click up here somewhere and we will have a video at some point on deck building, where I'll take you through all the viable cards you can use if you're looking for certain Pokemon to build into decks, what you can pair with them. However, in this one, our deck is ready-made and we're ready to play against our opponent. The first thing you need to do is you're going to take something like a coin or a dice. Now these are both supplied in Pokemon. However, I feel like the coin can be manipulated slightly more. So in this one, we're going to use a dice. It's always good to use a transparent one when you're rolling off. If you're rolling, offer your opponent to call it. So they'll call heads or tails. In this case, heads would be evens and tails would be odds. So it'd roll off. In this case, let's say they called heads. So we win this one. Then we choose if we want to go second or first. For this example, we're going to go first to make it slightly easier. So once you're ready to go, you're going to want to give your deck a good shuffle. Shuffle it however you feel fit. Obviously, your opponent does get a chance to cut it and shuffle it themselves afterwards, but make sure it's nice and randomized. Offer it to your opponent. They'll normally cut it something like this. And then once it's been okayed, take your top 7 cards. So count them out. And you're going to take a look at them. So let's have a look here together. So this is our starting hand. In this example, we don't have a basic Pokemon. The way you would tell that up here, where it says stage 1, it would say basic. We don't have any basics. So we would show that to our opponent so they can confirm it, shuffle those back in and redraw our hand. Every time we do this, our opponent is going to draw an extra card or have the option to. So you want to make sure your deck has a good amount of basics in so they don't get too many extra cards at the start of the game. However, if your opponent also mulliganed, that would mean neither of you draw cards and you go again until you're both set up and ready to play. So we've got our new hand of 7 here. As we can see, we do have a basic this time. So you're not going to show this to your opponent. You're going to put it face down and put it into the active spot, which is up here. Over here is our bench, our deck, discard, and this side is going to be our prizes. So you're just going to take the top 6 cards from your deck at that point and deal them over here. You can deal them any way you like in sets of 2, sets of 3. Just make sure they are clear to both yourself and your opponent. And you're ready to start. Once your opponent has done the same, once you've done all your mulligans. Now, it's worth noting mulligans are drawn after the prizes come out. So you would deal your prizes. Then let's say our opponent had a mulligan. It means we get 1 extra card. We can choose to take that and it would go into our hand. Now we've got an extra basic, we can choose to put another on the bench. So in this case we will. Both players are set up, let's flip over our Pokemon. Now as I say, we are going first, so at the start of any turn you always draw an extra card. So we're going to draw one here. Now our deck is made up of a few things. We've got item cards, we've got Pokemon, we've got energy, we've got supporters, and in some cases tool cards. Now, the other type of card you might see is an A-Spec. Now, these are very specific to this format, so this current time. They weren't a card before. They have been at other points. They're basically a card that you can only have 1 of. Like I said, I've got a deck building video which goes more into that, but normally you can have 4 of one type of card. An A-Spec is very different. It's 1 of. It's this pink card here you can see on screen. Choose one of those, put it in your deck. You're only allowed 1. That is the other type of card. They are tools. They are items normally. But I thought I should mention that if you see them and you're slightly confused. So on your turn going first, you can attach an energy. You can put down basic Pokemon. You can't play a supporter if you're going first. So this turn, we can't play a supporter. When it passes to our opponent on their first turn, because they're technically second, they could play a supporter. So there's small advantages to that. Obviously going first though, these Pokemon in play can't evolve. It goes to our opponent, his can't evolve. It comes back to us, now these can evolve. So there are advantages to going first. It means in decks like this, where you want to evolve your Pokemon up, you can evolve them before your opponent, which is always nice. It really does depend on the deck you're playing against and your deck in general, if you want to go first or second. But let's play out a turn and I'll show you some examples of how a deck can work. Thankfully, we've got no supporters, so we don't have to worry about holding these, but let's play Buddy Poffin. It says search your deck
for up to 2 basic Pokemon with 70 HP or less, put them on your bench and then shuffle your deck. So we are going to choose to play this. So this will go to our discard pile and we use its effect. It said search for 2 Pokemon with 70 HP or less. So let's take a look through and find some Pokemon. This one's got 70 HP or less, so we're going to take that one. And let's go for another Rolts. It's always good to have multiples of your most important Pokemon. So we're going to grab Rolts and Klefki. Like it says, they go to the bench and then shuffle your deck. Anytime you shuffle your deck, offer it to your opponent to cut again. They get the option, they don't have to, they can just let you continue. Try to play all of your things at once. So in that example there, we played a Buddy Puffin. If we wanted to use this, I would say use it before the shuffle. It just saves on time, it doesn't waste anyone's time as you're playing. And it just, if you do all those actions that you need to search your deck for in one, it just makes things run a little smoother. In this case, not really much else going on. So we're going to attach an energy. We always get 1 energy a turn. And we are going to choose to retreat. Now, retreating is the cost down here, which is a colorless, so it can be paid by any type of energy. So we're going to discard this psychic energy to bring the Rolts back to the bench and promote a new active Pokemon. In this case, it's going to be the Klefki. The reason for that is this one's got a cool ability. So it says Mischievous Lock. So it will tell you when the ability is active. As long as this Pokemon is in the active spot, basic Pokemon in play, yours and your opponents have no abilities. So there are some very powerful abilities. This is like a control, so it's trying to stop your opponent from using those powerful abilities against you.
The other great benefit of the active and placing someone in there you don't mind being knocked out is that they can only attack your active, or normally they can only attack it. Some attacks are able to hit your bench as well, but if not, that attack is only directed to your active Pokemon. So if you've got some Rolts you want to keep safe on the bench, it's a great idea to retreat them.
So if we leave this in the active, we can turn some of those off. A lot of abilities are usable via the bench. Let's go into this next turn and I'll talk a little bit about that. So let's say our opponents played their turn out, then it comes over to us. So we will draw at the start of our turn again, and let's look at our hand and see what we can do here. We do have an Ultra Ball. Discard 2 cards from your hand. If you can't discard 2 cards, you can't play this. Search your deck for a Pokemon, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So we're going to play the Ultra Ball, discarding a Nest Ball and Gardevoir, and we get to go into our deck and find a Pokemon. So in this case, let's go grab out our Curlier, which is the next evolve of the Rolts. Like it says, give the deck a shuffle afterwards. Again, your deck has been shuffled to offer it to your opponent. This is all just good etiquette. It's, obviously when you're starting out, it's not as important, but when you play at venues, at more competitive events, it's just good to get into practice. So now these Rolts have been in play for a turn. They were in play last turn, so now they can be evolved. We do have a Gardevoir in hand, but they need to go to Curlier this turn, and then the following turn they could evolve into the Gardevoir, unless you use something like a Rare Candy, which skips the middle evolution and means we could go straight into Gardevoir on top of the Rolts. We unfortunately don't have a Rare Candy, so we're going to evolve to Curlier. Now again, very important to read the abilities. Curlier's ability says you must discard a card from your hand in order to use this ability. Once during your turn, you may draw 2 cards. So let's use that ability. We're going to use Refinement on Curlier. We are going to discard a Counter Catcher, and we are going to draw 2 cards. So we draw an Energy and a Scream Tail. Now, not much else going on this turn. Obviously, we've not attached an energy, so we can do that. So let's attach one to our active Pokemon, and let's have a look at its attack. It costs 1 colorless, so it can be any type of energy. It could be a fire, it could be a grass, or in this case, a psychic. And we get to Joust, so we do 10 damage to our opponent. Before doing any damage though, discard all tool cards from your opponent's active Pokemon. So if they had a tool card attached, it would remove it and then do 10 damage. Now the way you would signify damage is, in this case, 10 would be represented by 1. So let's say this is our opponent's Pokemon, so they take 1. They would then have 60 HP left. If you then dealt them, let's say you dealt another 1 and eventually added up to 70, that would be enough to knock out this Pokemon. So you would remove the damage, the knocked out Pokemon will go to the discard pile, and you will draw a prize. Now Pokemon like this are only worth 1 prize. So in this example, let's say we've jousted our opponent into a KO and we get to take a prize. So you just take one of your prize cards from the side, look at it, and that goes into your hand. The idea of the game is the first player to take all 6 prize card wins. There's a few exceptions, like this Gardevoir here. Obviously you can see it's got a ton of health, 310, and it's worth some extra prizes. So it says down here, Pokemon EX. When your Pokemon EX is knocked out, your opponent takes 2 prizes instead of 1. So if they manage to knock this out, they're going to get an extra prize. That does make the game slightly faster. It means if they can knock out 3 EX Pokemon, they win the game. However, if we keep our board single prize, which this deck tries to do, we can only give up 1 prize a turn, which is nice, using attackers like Screamtail and other things. So that does come into the strategy a little bit. You can build your deck around single prizes, you can have a mix. Obviously, if they're down to 1 prize and they only need 1 prize, then putting something like the Gardevoir in the active makes life a lot more difficult for them. Let's just take a look at that card we drew off the prizes then. And this is a supporter like I mentioned before. This says switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with the active. So if I didn't want to attack into their active Pokemon, I could attack into a different one. Let's take a look at a few other supporters and tools here. Normally supporter cards are going to be like Iono here. So this says each player shuffles their hand and puts it on the bottom of their deck. If either player put any cards at the bottom of their deck in this way, each player draws a card for each remaining prize card. So we've got 5 left. So if we played this, we would shuffle our hand, it would go to the bottom, and then we would draw 5 off the top. Like I say, normally supporters are played to draw you cards. You want to fly through your deck as much as possible. Where item cards, as we've already seen with Buddy Puffin, draw you Pokemon, or something like Earthen Vessel lets you find energy. The other type of card in Pokemon are tool cards. So we're going to take a look at a few examples here. So we've got the regular tool, something like a Technical Machine Evolution. These attach to your Pokemon. They can give your Pokemon more health, they can give them more damage, or in this case, they actually give you an option of an extra attack. So if this was attached to our Klefki, we could choose to use that. So let's do that. So let's have a look what it does. Evolution, choose up to 2 of your bench Pokemon. For each of these Pokemon, search your deck for a card that evolves from them and put that Pokemon on them, then shuffle your deck. So it's also worth noting, discard at the end of your turn. So we're going to use this turn, attach it, and then use its effect. It means we can evolve 2 of our bench Pokemon. So if we go find 2 Curlier, or potentially we could go for a Curlier and a Gardevoir, they go onto our bench. So that's a quick way to evolve up our Pokemon. Shuffle your deck afterwards. Like it says, this is discarded at the end of the turn, so that goes to your discard pile, and then it's over to your opponent. Whenever you attack, that is the final action of your turn. That is the last thing you get to do. So make sure you play all your cards down beforehand, and now it's over to our opponent. Obviously, the following turn though, we've got 3 Curlier on our bench, and we've looked at the ability already. Throw away a card and draw 2. So let's say the turns come back to us. We're going to draw for turn, always draw for turn to start things off. Then we've got 3 options here. So we could Curlier once. So I like to turn them or just put something on them so you know it's been used. And then we're going to draw 2 cards. We don't really want this Flutter Mane, so we're going to use the next Curlier. And again, draw 2 new cards. And you can see how this deck can quickly ramp up and start drawing new cards to hopefully win the game. We found another tool here. Each Pokemon can only have 1 tool. However, the other one discarded itself. So we can now put a Bravery Charm on our Klefki, which gives it 50 extra HP. So now this thing is looking at 120, and it's a little more hard to deal with. Some Pokemon like the Curliers are only here to help us draw cards and find what we need. Very much like our Radiant Greninja here, which concealed card says you must discard an energy from your hand in order to use this ability. Once during your turn, you may draw 2 cards. So again, it's just a way to see more cards. And that's very much the Pokemon TCG. You're either going to be searching for cards specifically with things like the Buddy Puffin we looked at before, where we can just search out Pokemon. We're either going to be drawing new hands with stuff like the Iono, which we mentioned before, or we're going to use Pokemon abilities to find things, draw through our deck, and just set up. The idea for this deck in general is using the Gardevoir EX. So even though we've used the ability of this Curlier, we could then evolve it. So that would go into Gardevoir, and then we could use Gardevoir's ability. Gardevoir's ability says, Psychic Embrace, as often as you like during your turn, you may attach a basic energy, psychic energy card from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. For each energy you do in this way, it deals 2 damage. So let's just talk about that quickly. So this, we can look for our discard pile. There is an energy in there. We could attach it to something like the Klefki, but it says we also need to drop 2 damage counters on it. So we're damaging our own Pokemon, but with some of these Pokemon in our deck, like the Screamtail, Roaring Scream does 20 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon for each damage counter on it. So if we throw a ton of energy on this, not only is it going to be hitting for more damage, because it's powered up via damage counters on itself, it means we can attack more quickly. Obviously, normally you can only attach 1 energy a turn. So cards like this Gardevoir, which are energy acceleration, are some of the most popular and powerful cards in the Pokemon TCG. As I say, you're going to go back and forth, your opponent trying to knock out your Pokemon, you trying to knock out your opponents, until someone finally takes all 6 prizes and wins the game. The only other way you can win a game is, let's say it's our turn, draw our last card. That means the following turn, so it has to be the following turn. At the start of your turn, if you go to draw a card, but there are none left in your deck, you lose the game. The other way is, if, for example, it's our opponent's turn and we've just got 1 Pokemon left, none on our bench, if they manage to knock out our active Pokemon, that is also game over. Even if they take their first prize, even if they're nowhere near taking all of their prizes, as long as we have no Pokemon on the board, the game goes over to your opponent and vice versa. So to recap, the only ways to win a game: take all 6 prizes, deck your opponent out. There are some strategies where you're actively milling your opponent or removing cards from their deck, or knock out your opponent's final Pokemon. It's more likely in some aggressive decks that go for KOs quite quickly.
Hopefully this has been some help. Like I said, I will be doing more videos on deck building and how to get into the game if you're a younger player, maybe how to build decks on a budget and all of that stuff, as well as competitive things and moving as you get more and more into the game, the advanced stuff. That is all I've got for this video though. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe if this was any help at all. You want to see more Pokemon stuff. That's all I've got for this one though, so I will catch you in the next one.